Cast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, Brad. Are you with me?
Hi, Jamie. I'm here.
Hey, what's happening? Hey, thanks everybody for popping in. Today is Wednesday, and instead of our weekly webinars that we usually host and provide lots of cool content and all that good stuff, we are doing basically question and answer sessions since it is our big test drive week, and we've got tons and tons of people on the system, all eagerly awaiting information. So it's a question and answer session. Before we get rolling here, I don't have a stack like I usually do and all these pretty pictures, but I do feel it necessary to do the disclaimer here real quick here before we begin. So ladies and gents, everything we share with you here today is for educational purposes only. So keep that in mind. If you need investment advice, somebody to tell you what to buy, when to buy it, all that good stuff, make commissions, blah, 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 then you need to seek out a registered investment advisor or some other licensed individual in the securities industry that can help you out with all that fun stuff. All right, I don't think the legal team will have a heart attack now, so we can begin here. So just keep in mind, we're going to be attempting to get to everyone's question here. So as they roll in, if you're further down the queue, exercise a little bit of patience here, and we will certainly get to you.
So Jamie, let me start off by recommending to everybody, and kind of pertinent to Jacques' first question, it'd be my preference that everybody gets on the latest beta of the software. We've got a lot of great features that we've put into it. You can go ahead and download that right from the site. But a lot of that chart analytics that you would see on Jamie's screen right now can only be derived through that latest beta version.
Correct. And the beta version is typically, I mean, Brad, I can't even remember the last time we had a beta version that you didn't want to use because there were bugs. They're usually pretty bug free, not to toot our own horn. There will be bugs from time to time, but it's always a pretty safe bet getting the beta version. That way you get all the bells and whistles before everybody else.
Yeah, so here's the deal, Jacques. Now, I kind of had this problem myself. 4.2.5 is actually less than 4.2.20. So don't think of it as a 50 like 50, like a normal decimal, like most normal people would think of it. You actually have to think of it like a synchronous number. So 5 is less than 20. So go get the beta. That's 0.20. That's going to be a more recent version than what is 0.5, not 0.50.
Right. I think our development aren't a lot of our beta versions something 0.20 anyway.
They're engineers, so you have to understand the guys that are numbering this are engineers.
Yes, engineers. And by the way, just in case anybody's like, well, where in the world is the beta download? And by the way, you can see my screen, correct, Brad?
Yeah, it's coming through nice.
Okay, so you just go to our webpage like normal, you click on download. It's going to take you initially to the production version. Well, just give it a couple scrolls down, and then you'll see the beta is right underneath. And it will save all your old layouts and everything, so you won't lose anything. It'll just unfold right on top, and you'll be good to go. All right, so let's dig into these questions. And the first one, and I almost kind of chuckled when I saw this question. Oh, I lost it. Okay, can you please explain the advantages of pinning? Okay, good question. Now, pinning is when we don't want a window to go anywhere when we flip to a different layout or perhaps click on a channel. Notice when I click on my blockchain channel here, poof, my layout disappears and this channel is now displayed. Now, let's say I open my layout back up like so. And let's say I really want this chart to stick around. I don't want it to disappear. It could be this chart, could be any other window, and all we do is we right click and we say pin it. Now when I cruise to a different, either open a different layout through my toolbar or click on another channel, this guy is not going to go anywhere. Of course, I happen to select one that was be covered up. But in other words, once you pin a window, it's never going to go away. Now, some people find that useful. Maybe you want a chart up in the left-hand corner that always shows the SPY or your favorite pet stock or whatever, other instrument you want to have a chart of that never goes anywhere. But just keep in mind, if you pin a window, and let's say we bring my other layout back up, like I did just a second ago. All right, well, here's my layout. Hunky-dory, good. Everything's working fine. But if we peel this layer back here, ooh, what's hiding back here? It's another chart. So what happens if you're not aware that a window is pinned and you make it part of your default layout? It'll keep stacking up duplicates. So that's when we get the call or the live message from the chat area of the website that says, I'm getting this weird, you've exceeded your 10 chart maximum and I only have 2 charts open. That's because you don't know it, but you're stacking windows that are pinned. So just be aware, if you pin a window, don't include it in your default layout and you won't witness the stacking effect and run into problems down the road. All right. Looking at Blair. All right. Yeah.
So with respect to pinning, just a little insight for Angie. A lot of people use it to, they create a layout kind of around the channels, and they have their own personal windows that they've customized kind of around the channels, and that way you can toggle through different channels and look at different setups, but still retain some of the more important windows that you're more accustomed to using throughout the day. That's just kind of one way people use it.
True.
All right, so hey, Jamie, Blair's having a question regarding the zooming in and the compressing of candles on a chart.
Yep, I see
and there
that.
Are a couple ways to do it.
Right, so here we're looking at intraday. Let me just pull something up that looks a little more liquid, like the good old SPY. Of course, this is post-market right here. These are 5-minute candles. Now, if I hold my control key down and scroll on my mouse wheel, you'll notice I'm compressing. Now we see pre-market, post-market yesterday, keep on going, and I can compress and expand as long as we hold down control and scroll the mouse wheel. Let's say you don't have a mouse with a scroll wheel on it. You can hold down control and hit sideways or left and right arrow on your keyboard and get the same effect. So if I'm not holding down control, notice I'm just scrolling backwards in time on the chart. So we can scroll back and forth by using the mouse wheel or left and right arrow. If we want to throw compression in there, we just hold down the control key and do the same thing. So hopefully, Blair, that gets it done right there. Okay, so you're saying you did it and nothing? You held down control and used left right arrow or the mouse scroll wheel and nothing is happening? Say yes if that's true.
So Harley's asking about the harding and wants to better manage that. And we do have plans of adding more of a management page. There's going to be a lot of other things that are going to be included in that, including the symbols that you've hearted, the dates that you've liked them and such, and an ability to mass delete those particular symbols. But it's not in there yet. So right now it's just a single symbol process.
Right.
Other ways that you can do it, like if you're managing a list that you're changing all the time, maybe the harding may not be the best thing for you. You can always create custom symbol lists and send bulk symbols to it through the right-click menu, send to a symbol list, or just even have the symbol list editor open and adding symbols that way. So there are a couple of different ways you can do it, but we do have plans to really make that my liked symbols a bigger portion of kind of your own personal page.
Right, and to that end, you know, here's a little stock that went kind of crazy today. OPGN might be one to keep an eye on. Of course, you know, that big wick right there, maybe it's done, maybe it's not. But for some reason, it went crazy today. So if you want to click the little heart up here, turns red. Now, we've got a channel specifically for this. We go to My Like Symbols, and notice we've got a couple of top lists here and an alert window, and of course, the typical compulsory charts. Now, whenever we click on the heart, it's going to add that symbol to all of the other symbols that we've liked, and those are the stocks that are going to be displayed on this top list. Now, we might as well talk about this. You know, we originally designed the channels to help new people find out what all is there that Trade Ideas does? What are all the different variants? What can I look for, different configurations? That's what the channel bar is really for. Now, kind of like TV before VCO, you know, digital video recorders and all that kicked in, what did you do? You scrolled around. If something caught your attention, you watched that channel. If it didn't, you know, that's the old term channel surfing. But in the same spirit, if you spend some time on this channel and you're like, yeah, well, I've got charts and I've got my single stock window and all this other stuff, but I really like this window. I want to capture it. So all you have to do is right click and save or share and then hit save. That way it's in your cloud. You can easily incorporate it into your own default layout and make it your own, so that every time you pull up your default layout or any other layout that you've saved, it will be there. And ultimately that is the goal, getting your default layout dialed in just like you like it, so that if we wanted to make that part of our family, now we go load from cloud, wait for the cloud to load up. Sometimes it's a lickety split, but right now I think the servers are doing some heavy lifting. So there we go. Here's the window I just saved into my cloud. All I have to do is highlight it and hit load. And now I could find a home for this guy, whether it's on this monitor or any other monitor, and save my layout. And boom, it's there every time. All right, let me scan these questions here. Okay. Next in the list, just trying to make sure I don't skip over anybody. Brad, I'm pretty certain we cannot add a scroll bar to the, there's no way to add a scroll bar to the charts.
Yeah, no scroll bar. Let's take Devin's question here. He's asking, what's the best minimum average volume? I think it's a personal question, but specific to the turbo brakes, up and down scanners. You're talking about the average minimum volume. I know that for the turbo brakes, we do use a couple of volume filters on there. What do we have? A relative volume filter on there, and then a 1 and 5 minute?
Correct, correct. So this is a small dollar version that I've been keeping my eyes on. Of course, the IWM did its thing and quickly came back. So a lot of these sub $1 stocks were getting drug up. Now, typically in its native format, this guy's looking for stocks between 20 and 150, to find the fairly liquid stocks. A couple of different, as Brad said, a couple different volume metrics in here. Relative volume, which is one of the older volume metrics that's been around for a very long time, lets you know based on the metric, hey, if you see a 2 an hour into the open, it's making the prediction if the volume keeps up 2 times normal, 3 times normal, so forth and so on. So we always have to be careful. We don't want to pick too high of a relative volume, because if you wait too long, a lot of the move is already done. So preferably in this version, I like to see 1.3, which means, hey, it's perking, things are happening, but it hasn't gone too crazy just yet. And then to ensure that there is volume on the smaller time frame, we've got the 1 minute volume here. This is a percentage filter, so 100 would be normal volume. So we're asking for 3 times normal 1 minute volume in the prior 1 minute candle. And that's the minimum. It could be much higher. So depending on the chart pattern that you're playing, whatever type of continuation, breakout it might be, that right then and there, the volume is kicking. And that's kind of important to know when you're making an entry, right? So that's one way to do it. And of course, the catalyst on this one is a new high, being a momentum type alert window. Now, of course, just because we're demanding a minimum here and here, hey, it's always kind of cool to see the exact value. So the cool thing about filters, anything in the list here that we're seeing from the filter section, not only can we make it part of our all or none equation here, but we can also show any filter as a column. So if I show the history of this guy today, I've got 1 minute volume also displayed as a column. So it'll feed me that exact value. And of course, we can see as these stocks were hitting highs, meeting the 1 minute criteria of 300, this guy is actually spitting out the actual value. So when you see something like this, that's almost 16 times normal on the 1 minute as that event was unfolding. So I hope that makes sense. All right, just scanning the questions here. No scroll bar. Why is it when you link? Okay.
You want to do this? You want You want to maybe pop over to my screen and I can kind of do a little bit of that?
On the linking?
Yeah, linking,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
there's a brokerage plus question too that I thought might be.
The baton has been handed off, Brad.
All right, bud. Let me know when my screen pops up.
I got you.
All right. So let's start off with linking to IB, Trader Workstation. Let me go ahead and delete the linking that I have. So the first thing, pretend like I didn't do that. The first thing is you go to your toolbar and you go to Tools, External Linking. So we do link with about 90% of the tools out there. And I know there was a question Godson asked about TC2000. And I know recently there have been some issues with TC2000. You know, we can't control the other code, and a lot of times they make changes to it. And I think that was the case with TC2000. So it's not linking very well with that product. But specific to IB right here, this is the process that you would go through. You do it once in the morning to sync it up, or anytime you would close or open one of these two programs, because they're two separate Windows programs, you have to do this step here to establish the linking. So you just go to add link. This window's open right here, and this is kind of an unintuitive process, but if you listen, you just move your cursor. I'm just moving my mouse cursor right over to the symbol field here on the chart inside of the IB Trader Workstation program, and I'm going to press and release my shift key. Now when I do that, watch this window change right here. So I'm going to do it right now. So it essentially told me that it's now linked to this particular window, and now I'm going to give it some specific instructions. I am connected to the paper trading account, so I'll just select paper right here, and then I just need to hit OK. So now once I've done that, I can close this and I can open any trade ideas window. I can use one of the Holly windows here and select a symbol, and then my trade ideas charts behind it are updating, but also the windows inside of Trader Workstation are updating. So I could, you know, scan my portfolio, go through different alert windows. And that's kind of the segue into Brokerage Plus, which is an add-on. It's a premium add-on to the software. So like with the premium subscription, you get the odds maker and the price alerts and the AI, but you also get this Brokerage Plus right here. And so when I open that, what I'm going to do, the first thing I need to do is really kind of, I know that I've already linked it through symbol linking, but I've really got to link it to the API of Interactive Brokers. And the goal here is to be able to send orders directly from trade ideas right into the IB brokerage account. And to do that in a couple different ways, either do it manually by right-clicking or kind of spend some time and create a strategy and back test it and optimize it and come up with something that you're comfortable with, and you can just kind of let it loose on the market, turn it on and not have to touch anything, and let it go ahead and automatically manage that order from a perspective of how long you're going to stay in that trade, what's your maximum stop or what's your stop loss going to be, what's your profit target going to be, and you just turn it on and it kind of runs itself. So here's what you do. The first thing, you go to this part here that says you're disconnected. Right now we're disconnected to IB. We do have plans of adding additional brokerage destinations to that. But IB Connect, I am in the demo account right here. This is not a brokerage, it's a paper trading. So I'm going to connect to the paper. We also connect to the gateway, and the gateway is another thing that's very similar. Well, it's not really similar because it doesn't have a real big interface, but it allows you to connect to the API of IB. And it doesn't have this big bloated trading application, so it's just really the connection itself. So I'm going to TWS paper, connect. Now I've got this green engineering connected circuit letting me know that I'm connected here. If I have any positions, they'll populate in. But what you can do, you know, once it's here and once I'm connected, the first tab here, the strategy tab, this is where I can take a strategy that I've created, drop it in here, and then set up, let's say if I just do new trading, I'm not going to write the strategy here, but I could drop it in, and these are the set of instructions that I would tell it, right? So what kind of orders do I want to send to the market? How many orders can I possibly send? What's the amount of the order in shares or dollar value? Like I said, stop loss, profit targets, trailing stops, and then how long you're going to hold it. Once you set that up, you know, it's automatically set, ready to go as soon as you turn it on. So, you know, I could enable the strategy and turn it on, and then it could go. But once you're connected, you can also do some other things like right click here and just go to the trade menu. And this menu here is populated based upon what you have right here on the strategies tab. So personally, if myself, Edit Trading Strategy, if I want to go ahead and instead of trading $5,000 trades, I'm going to trade the number of shares that are going to come to a $10,000 transaction. So I'll change that. I should probably, instead of just changing that, I should probably change the name too. So there's 10,000 at market. I'll hit OK. So now that's right here in my Brokerage Plus, and then any window, right? If I go to new top list window, okay, so now I've got a volume window here. I could sort it, do whatever I want with it, but once I see something that I like, right click, trade, buy 10,000 at market, then I automatically send that order, and hopefully everything works out. So that's kind of the Brokerage Plus. There's some great things that you can do with the tool once you have a position in here. It's got, you could extend your stop loss, you could modify parameters, really turn it into kind of like a gray box trading machine where you automatically get into positions based upon the strategies you create, but then you can then manually take care of it from there. So that's my spiel, Jamie.
That's good stuff, Brad. And I mean, we've seen the Brokerage Plus up there connect to IB. It's a long time ago when the first versions of this type of technology we started developing. So here we are, almost 10 years down the road. So it's a good thing to see. We're getting a lot of good feedback from this module. There's already quite a bit of activity, live activity being routed through it at IB, and we only expect that to increase over time.
So I see that there was a question here. Jody was asking about the AI, and specific to the application, there's kind of it's a funky thing that you may have been able to convey it through typing, but it's kind of funky. Like if I wanted to just pin this window here and this window here and think that I'm going to be able to pin that and go to the next channel, it's not going to work. You're like, what the heck's going on? The reality is those guys are kind of derivative windows of this window right here, the master AI window. So you have to pin that one too. So once you do that, then you could go ahead and retain your AI windows on in your layout wherever you want it, and then move around. But if you don't have this guy pinned, and I move around like to my short squeeze, and they all disappear. So just a nuance. It's kind of a
and I think Jody might have gotten confused when I showed him how to save the window from a channel, right-clicking and save to cloud, because one would think, hey, well, all I have to do is right-click and save Holly to the cloud. Whereas we can easily just go up to the TI toolbar there and click new and spawn any type of window that you want, including the AI. So I can see how that might be a little confusing. You can't save Holly to the cloud, but you can spawn the AI panel anytime you want from the toolbar.
Yeah, and from there you can open up the individual trade windows. So that is something that I see will change probably down the line. We have it operating a little bit differently in the web version, which we recently have added the AI too. Let me see if I can pop that over here.
Yep, the web version has certainly come a long way as well recently, getting Holly on there.
Yeah, so if you were to launch Holly from here, you could launch any of the Holly windows right from the toolbar. So it's a little bit different, a little bit more intuitive from that perspective.
Yep, and we get the question a lot, well, why, what's the web version for? Well, it's mainly developed for people who, correct me if I'm wrong, Brad, but for the Macintosh users that don't want to run parallel environments on their Macs, it's the perfect solution. All right, so Brad Blair is telling us that the chart compression is still not working.
Yeah, so Blair, let's do this. So just send an email to info@trade-ideas.com. I'll have someone, they'll set up a remote session, and we can kind of get personal with what's going on with your system right there and figure out what's going on. Probably the best thing.
A little live support.
So I was going to say, Jamie, I was actually muted. I was typing something and just kind of talking to myself. But specific to the web version, it's kind of cool on the phone and the iPad too. It's not right. It's not something that you can configure. It's not really meant for you to go in and do your configuration. But the cloud really works that way. So you can do a window or two windows and have a little layout, or even It's the channels are okay, better for an iPad than a smaller phone, but it's pretty robust though. There's some really cool things you can do. Like if you wanted to pop windows out, you can pop windows out of here, out of the channels, and then customize them, save your layout, and really have pretty sophisticated layouts because you can span it over a couple monitors.
Great. Yeah, you're right. Great for the tablet crowd as well, or your oversized phones. All right, looks like we're all caught up on questions. So if you've been sitting on a question, now is the perfect time to pop it right in there and get pretty much an immediate response. So anything TI related, please let us have them.
Let me show something that's kind of, well, waiting for something, and please send something in. I'll show you something that I get a lot of questions on. Let me open up, say, like a top list window. I'll just use the basic top list window. And I'm going to start off, I'm going to delete the color scheme here. I'm going to show you kind of how we do colors and how colors really work. So let me just delete all, and we'll just kind of go from here. So we'll start with this particular window. All right, so let's start here with the relative volume. You know, this is we do some great things with our top list and other windows where you can go ahead and toggle between data points, and you can double click in here and sort and bring different items to the top. But in these types of lists, it can kind of get overwhelming, you know, with all these numerical numbers and these colors. But let me show you how you can use the colors to kind of bring something to the top of your mind. So here's this relative volume, and we're looking at it. And if I look at this, I know it's a volume leader, so most of the stocks here are going to have a relative volume that's, you know, pretty significant. Relative volume is really how much volume is that stock doing right now compared to normal. It's done in a ratio value. So a number 2, it's telling you it's doing 2 times that normal volume at this point in time. So we're closed, it's the end of the day. We can see kind of how these stocks really did from a volume perspective. And some of these are outrageous, right? So you can go through it and see, wow, 22 times, 20 times, these are big volume moves. And it'd be nice to really set the colors up so that things get highlighted in a way. And we do that all throughout the software, all throughout our different channels. You can right click on any of the headings right here to get specific to the heading, to custom color it. But before we do it, let's just go ahead and right click in here and go to properties and select the colors to see exactly how this particular window is colored, so we kind of know what's going on. So as I do that, I'm looking here and I can see that the factor that I'm using to color this window is changed from the close percentage. And I have a couple of gradient grids set up here. Depending upon where that number is, I'm going to have a different color present itself. And then between those numbers, I'm going to have a color variant of that. So this here is saying that if a stock's down 10%, it's going to give it that dark red color. Anything less than 10%, like 20%, is going to have that same dark color. And the gradient all the way up to 0, and it shows you how it goes to 10. So that's kind of the way this window is set up. But let's go to the relative volume. And let's set that up so that it gives me some really super interesting information. So we already had set up a default for relative volume, but I'm not going to use it. So let's just delete all of those. I'm going to use the other one that I have here. It's a blue one, but here's how you set it up. And let's try not to get too confused. So let's start off with our breakpoints. And the breakpoints are every time that relative volume gets to a certain number, I'm going to put a different color in there. So let's just go, I'm looking here and I see it's between 9 and 60. So let's just start off with 0. Let's go to 10, 20, 30, and I'm going to add 5 different breakpoints, and you'll see why here. So we'll just go to 40, and we could have made those different. And now what I want to do is I want to set up a different color span for that. I'm going to use this guy right here, which is a green color span. So now I can go ahead and set these all up into different color greens. I could also go in here and set them up to different color, say blues. Let's do that. Let's set these up into different color blues. You'll see why here in a second. All right, so essentially the same thing, different color blues. I'm going to hit OK. And now what I have is I have a spectrum of blues here So when I go ahead and do different sort order, so I'll do it by position and range, where I'm going to look at the stocks that are at the highest portion of the range. I can find very quickly the stocks that have higher relative volume through that gradient that I did. So it's just one way that we use color, and we do it all throughout. You know, if you pull up any of the channels here, you're going to see that we've done it here with the stock to its relative activity. You can see it very clearly. You know, this is highlighting the stocks that are being talked about far more than any other stock for the day. All of these are being talked about tremendously more, but the ones that are at the top of the spectrum are right there. I have to close Trader Workstation. Any more questions come in while I was going off there?
A few different ones on the coloring not showing up.
Let's do this. Let's go.
But it's right. It depends on the window that you're accessing as well. So why don't you give them a little tour on how to spawn, right-click in each different window, because you know, multi-strategy window is a little bit different on the color aspects that are available versus what you were just doing, right?
Okay. I kind of got sidetracked because I saw Chana's question there. And
oh, no worries. I mean, we can hop back and forth. You can do this, and we'll jump back over to colorization.
Let me grab that, since I just moved over to the AI channel here. So we've added some additional annotations, if you will, onto the charts specific to the AI trade. So if I kind of click on one of the AI signals today, you're going to see some information on here. So it's really essentially in the y-axis in the right-hand margin where we're annotating where the AI signal took place, and that's done through the blue box here, letting you know what price it was triggered, and then the blue line. Okay, we also, with every AI trade, there's a stop price associated with that strategy, or a stop value associated with that strategy. In this particular case, we're visually letting you know where that stop price is, and just like this particular trade right here, AGQ, if you look at it through the intraday, let's zoom in here, you can see where that stop occurred. It just came right down, it touched that stop, it went from an open position at that point to a closed position because that stop occurred. But you know, look, at the end of the day, these AI signals it's not a red light, green light system. These are giving you stocks that are in play based upon some type of activity, some type of footprint that was laid out during the day based upon the strategies that are looking for a particular event. Like I said, by no means anybody that knows how the market operates, it's not a clean process. And getting to where we were today, it simply stopped you out. But if you continue to look at it, and the beautiful part about really kind of using the 1-2 punch of trade ideas price alerts is that when a signal is generated, and this happens right here, all you need to do is right click, go to create price alert. You can type in your note right here. You can say AI signal 124, whatever it is that you want to say, you know, look again at this point, save it, and then it's saved. And when that thing crosses above it, you're going to be immediately notified. Got my go to meeting thing here, but this window here is my price alert. And when something happens, it pops right up here. I then click on it, and I take a look and see if that's something that I want to do. Oh yeah, I'm trying to link to Trader Workstation still.
Right, and the AI, you know, it's just, you kind of have to view it just like a person that would be sitting there next to you trading. You know, every time a signal comes through one of the strategies and that criteria is met, you're going to see it pop onto what can only be described as a live blotter.
So this one here today, guys, this was a previous AI signal. You can kind of hover over it. It'll give you a tooltip. This is something that triggered on, well, it triggered yesterday, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you expand
so it shows you where it triggered. I had placed a price alert at that time, and today it just kind of touched it. Didn't really manifest into anything here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and reset it. Now it's reset. Again, if that thing crosses it, it's going to come to my attention, and I'll be aware of it. I can watch it, make a decision on if I want to participate in that move or not. So it's really kind of using the 1-2 punch of the AI generating the signal, and then you placing an annotation on there. if you're not going to participate in that signal at that particular moment in time. I mean, this one right here, this one didn't, well, it did give you another opportunity for sure, but when it triggered, it really just simply continued to go. It didn't really come back until several hours later, until like 10:25. So I'm on West Coast time. Yeah.
Hey, if you don't mind, pull up the AGQ, that silver ETF that got spawned today, because we can see here, this is what we call a perfect example of a trade around if you expand that 5-minute chart out a little bit. And this is when the AI actually, I mean, it got stopped out to the T, right? I mean,
yeah,
just
to the
bam, print. And of course, as traders, if you've been in the chair for any number of years, how many times has this happened when you set a stop loss, you go to lunch, come back, and you're like, no, well, you know, we can capitalize off that now because, you know, these plays that Holly delivers, they've got statistical weight behind them, and it's not just good for the exact time the signal was delivered. These are good for the entire day because sometimes the timing is perfect, sometimes the timing is just off a little bit. So if you see Holly getting stopped out of something, and then you see that little retracement, you go up there and you set that price alert, because sometimes it's the second or third pass through that line when it really gets traction and goes.
Absolutely. That's why, you know, a lot of people do this a lot of different ways. Like, for instance, let me show you a technique that some guys use. I think it's a fantastic way to do it. And so what they do is they right click here and they're going to grab a history from the AI. So one, I would grab these symbols from today, but I go to time frame and I could grab a week, or I could, I don't know, grab 7 days and hit OK. So I'm going to grab all that data right there. And then what I can do is I can grab these symbols right here. Hello.
Right, it's generating a highly valuable watch list for you as well.
Control C right there, I can just copy it. I could also send these to a symbol list with the right click. I had a Holly action alert, so I could send those symbols right there, and then I could build a watch list, or I could build either a top list if I wanted to, with some filters and columns that would be appropriate for me spotting opportunities, or I could build an alert window. And this is where, you know, we shape data in a lot of different ways. We have amazing data, but it's how you're going to ingest that data is going to be, you know, how are you going to get this information to make a decision? So you could take, let's take an alert window, and this is something where you could have just a symbol list of stocks like I have. If I go to my symbol list, and what did I call it? Holly action alerts, right? So that's going to be my symbol list. Holly action alerts. And from my strategy perspective, if I go to filters and hide unused, I don't want any, personally, I'm not going to want any filters necessarily on this one here. I'm going to do probably something more like, I definitely want a position in range filter. So I'm going to put that position in range, not filter per se, but I want the column, because I want to be able to sort this stuff in a top list. I want to see how much it's up for the day. Let's just use the basic columns right there. And so this is going to be my Holly action alert highs. All right, so this is going to generate, this is an event. So when one of those symbols makes a new high, I'm notified, I can click on it, I could analyze it and make a decision. That's one way that I could look at it. Now, the other way I can do is I can open up a top list window. Start from scratch. I'll erase all the filters there. I'll go to symbol list. I'll use Holly action alerts. That'll be my symbol list. And then what's critical here is not so much the filters that I use, but what columns am I going to use? So let me just do these columns here, position in range. That's fine. Let's just do those. Maybe I want to know what the company does. Add that over there. All right, so now I've got a top list window. These are all my Holly action alerts, but now if I'm going to go ahead and sort this, I'm going to sort it here on position in range. Where's the stock right now in relationship to its high and its low? Well, it's not giving me a new event, but look, that new high, this stock right here happens to be at the high of the range. So it's how you take that data and ingest it. And another thing, like this Holly action alert, let's take this guy here and let's duplicate it. Let's right click configure. So now I'm in the configuration area. I'm going to hit this little flip. it's not a big deal when I only have one alert and I'm only going to change it to a new low. But if I had all kinds of filters that are painting a picture for this new high, and I just hit the flip button right here, I'll just leave it the way that it is, saying flipped, hit OK. Now I've got that same list looking for stocks that are making new lows, right? So I've got that. So now I've got two windows. I'm starting to fill my desktop. It's starting to get a little cluttered. Well, we've got this other window to kind of minimize that. So now I've got this multi-strategy window where I can take only alert windows. I can't take my top list, but I can take the alert window, and kind of gets a little confusing. But go to this collaborate field. I'm going to select collaborate, and I'm just going to copy it into my clipboard. I don't even need to know what that was. Right click here, go to strategies. I'm going to select a new strategy, collaborate, and I'm just going to paste it, dropping it right in there. I'm going to do the same thing right down here, collaborate, and trust me, if you guys do this a couple times, it's no big deal at all. So strategy, I'm going to add a new strategy this time, and I'm going to select collaborate, and I'm just going to paste whatever's in my clipboard. Okay, so now I have two different strategies, and this is where it may have been better if I kind of renamed it appropriately, but now I've got two strategies in here. I can go ahead and customize them from a color perspective. So this guy's my green one, so let's make that green.
Right, and notice this is completely different than the custom colorization that Brad was doing earlier. This is just selecting the foreground and the background color.
Yep, and so this right here is going to be my negative one. You have like 20 different strategies. So now I've just condensed it right into a small little window that's going to be giving me the flavor of both of these in a real small condensed space.
Hey, Brad, and real quick, if you wouldn't mind, don't.
Oh.
Go ahead and spawn a new alert window real quick here, because I want to circle back around to Godson and make sure he understands where to go to set the functionality for the colorization. So here, Godson, we have the alert window. So Brad, just give it the old right click and go to properties, and then you'll see select colors, right? And that's how we do that. And it's basically the same way. Go ahead and spawn, just go ahead and pull one of those top lists over that you have there in the bottom left, Brad. And we right click again, and we go to properties and select colors. And that's pretty much it. The only other way is we can customize columns, right? At the top of the column rows, if we really want to assign a custom metric like what's being displayed in the bullish social sentiment top list. Notice how the share column is colorized with the orange color, right? And the way we do that is we right click on the column header and say custom colors for the appropriate heading. And I do believe those are all the different mechanisms for colorization, Brad. I think we've hit on all of them now.
Yep, that's it. And then, you know, of course, you can go into this alert window that only gives you the ability to set up 3 different color modes, right, for a bullish or bearish or neutral alert. But in the same fashion, you could come in here and right-click custom color for relative volume, and you could set up the custom gradient right here for relative volume. So now if I just go for today, you're going to see, you know, that custom gradient for relative volume.
Right, and Godson's asking one more time if you could please show the multi-strategy colorization features again.
Yeah, okay.
Which basically it's...
Yeah, let me do it this way. Let me go to the social channel.
We've already got one, yeah.
Don't have a multi-strategy. Let me go to the surge. Where did my multis go? There we go.
There we go.
All right, so here's a multi-strategy window. If I look at it, I can see that there are, you know, 7 different strategies in it. The coloring is set up individually unique just through this one color section. I have the ability to do a background and a foreground for each of the strategies. So here it is. You know, these are my 7 strategies, and these are the 7 different color schemes that I set up. And it looks like in this particular case, yeah, well, I use different foreground colors too, because this is a white foreground color and that's a dark one. So kind of the spectrum right there. And then of course, yeah, you have the same ability to custom color a column. So you have strategies, rows that you can color, and then you can also custom color a column. And this is another way to do it. Notice I'm going to do this count column right here. Right click, custom colors for count. And this is a little interesting way to do it, kind of a technique here using this complex coloring grid setup that we allow you to make. And these are all these different breakpoints, but in this case here, when it hits 300 and anything above 300, it's going to turn yellow. So kind of like it's a switch that's been turned on. So you've got kind of the benefit of the gradient, but then when it hits a certain level, you're also going to get a kind of a notification color. And that's what you've got showing on right there.
Good stuff. So Brad, we just had a question, and Godson says, "Cool, okay, we got it done." We just had a question come in. Really good question. User says there's a lot of information, so many different channels, different techniques. What do you recommend as the first 3 steps when getting comfortable with TI, right? And hey, right on all points. And really, I guess, Brad, that depends on the person's appetite and what types of animals, meaning chart patterns, are they hunting, right? Because if you're new, you might not know what it is that you're after. Of course, you might have a specific chart pattern that you'd like to track. So see, just getting a little philosophical 101 here, we can show you all kinds of things, but you kind of have to know what you're looking for. Now, of course, we could go very basic and go, well, when I buy a stock, I want it to go up. If I short it, I want it to go down. But there's a gazillion ways from sundown when we're trying to, make a prediction based on the footprints in the sand, which are the charts. Now, there are very basic types of chart patterns out there. They're a little bit more advanced. You can bring exponential moving averages into the picture, simple moving averages, Fibonacci's, Bollinger Bands, Ikimoku clouds, right? I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So if you could give us, okay, well, I see, doing some intraday trades in and out after a few $100 a day. Great. But is there a specific pattern that you're looking for? Maybe if you're like Brad and myself, since we're kind of old and we started trading back in the So's Bandit days, circa mid-90s, we didn't care about charts. All we did is look at the price book and basically play that price action. But guess what? That was then, this is now. So, typically we can, take a pattern that a customer wants us to help write the alert window or top list for, but that's really what we designed the channel bar for. The channel bar is for getting a taste of what all's out there, right? So best piece of advice right now, if you're a new user trying to figure out, well, what is it that I like? I was on the blockchain and cryptocurrency channel the other day and I got a good trade. Then I was on the pre-market channel and I noticed something that was gapping up, and I played that one and I did well with it. So there's really no substitute for experience. You just have to immerse yourself in here, go see what all's in the channels, pick the ones you like, leave the ones you don't like, assemble your default layout, and that's how we explore and figure out what it is we like to trade, whether it's a certain pattern or level 2 books used to have a lot of meaning. But nowadays, just because you see a big bid or a big offer doesn't mean it's going to be there when you need to execute on it. So, really the only edge that we can give ourselves these days is informational. And it's really hard to unwind that from a chart. A simple example would be a breakout. Well, if the breakout's occurring with slightly above, slightly below, or normal volume, then the odds are so-so, maybe a coin flip that thing's gonna break out and continue higher. If there's accompanying volume to the tune of 2 or 3x what is normal, well, then the chances of that event doing what you think it's going to do increase, right? It's like gas in the tank of a car, right? So, volume and price action, kind of 2 critical things that a lot of experienced traders focus on. All the other studies kind of come secondary.
So that's a good answer, Jamie. I mean, I think there are a million different answers you could give for that question there, because there's so many different approaches to the software. And from Trade Ideas perspective, I mean, we started off a while ago. Was it 15 years ago doing this?
2000. Well, it's technically
2003, right?
Technically the last couple of days of 2002, but we'll just say 2003.
So now I completely lost my train of thought. Other than
15 years, in other words. Yes.
We put a lot of stuff into it. This stock right here, HDSN, by the way, this is not a stock recommendation, but this is telling you why you would want to use the price alerts, because this stock may not, bust above this level that I've set here tomorrow, may not do it the next day. But when it does, I definitely want to be aware of it, because when you look at this type of setup, there's so many different ways to use trade ideas, right? You can use our windows, but you can use our AI to identify something to then set up a pattern for something in the future. Yeah, they're infinite is right. There are infinite ways from which to answer the question, because there are infinite ways from which to trade. And we started off 15 years ago making you have to configure a window. But we kind of took that and realized that not everybody is ready to start off in that fashion. So we created the channel bar, which allows you to kind of get an experience of what you can possibly do with our software. And we gave you all these different themes where we went through and configured these windows. You can make all these your own. You can configure them for what is going to make you, a best trader. The thing is, trading is not some robotic endeavor that anybody can do. It's a challenging endeavor, but we're giving you tools here that make it easier to uncover the opportunities that exist. And there's not just one way to uncover that opportunity. There are multitudes of ways, and everybody has their own special way to kind of that works for them. And you have to find that. And once you find that, then you can take trade ideas, which is like a piece of clay, and form it the way that you want it to be, and have it work for you in the way that you want it to deliver opportunities for you. So tough question to answer. I don't know.
That is true. I mean, it's like the largest buffet that you've ever seen. You walk in and it never ends. It's just buffet all the way down
but so
to the horizon.
The one part I left off, which was, I know I mentioned it with the AI, but I don't think anybody, or we didn't talk about it today, kind of what goes into the AI and why these signals right here have statistical advantages to them over looking at, let's say, the surge channel and coming up with a couple ideas. I mean, you're going to find great opportunities on the surge channel, but you're going to also find a lot of opportunities that aren't that good.
That's a really great point, because if you don't know and you pull up the AI channel and you're like, okay, well, they tell me that this is an artificial intelligence, but I see the same strategy showing up every day. So, what does that mean, right? But keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, this AI, and of course, it's very important, and we don't really talk about this. Well, we do talk about it a lot, but we haven't really been talking about it lately during the test drive. What is actually happening with Holly behind the scenes? Because how many strategies showed up today, Brad? We got
not too many.
1, 2, 3, just 7? Six, right? 2 shorts and 4 longs, right? But sometimes Holly will have, on the upper end, 12, 13. We've even seen her with 14 and 15 strategies that might show up. Now, tomorrow, how many will show up? Unknown at this time, because what's going on behind the scene is that we have a core strategy base for Holly, and it's constantly fluctuating, taking off a few, adding a few, but let's just say it's fluxing right around 40, 45 strategies in what we call the base for Holly. Now, each and every one of these strategies backtest very well over, say, a 40 trading day period, but they're huge. I mean, you might have 50, 60, 70,000 trades coming through these things. And so that is very good nutrients for the AI. That's what we feed her, we should say, Holly. Now, what does it do? Matter of fact, what is the AI doing right now? Well, the market is closed. Our servers are updating. Every tick of every stock that went on today, we're archiving that into our database. And then once that's complete, Holly's going to take her base of 40-ish strategies, and she's going to do what Brad's doing right here, but over and over and over again, and try to manually add filters and rearrange the filters or add new filters to improve that strategy's results. And if she does it over and over again, eventually she realizes whether she can improve or leave something the same, but there's a proprietary score assigned to that strategy that we've developed, and only the strategies that meet the minimum on that proprietary scoring system will make the starting team for tomorrow. So even if we see Brad, pull it away from the panel so we can see the strategy names real quick here.
What are you talking about?
The strategy names, right? Yeah. Okay. So, for example, Sunrise Mover is one of the better performers overall. Now, if Sunrise Movers shows up again tomorrow, it's not the same version of Sunrise Mover. Something has been changed or tweaked based on the information that was integrated into the database today. So keep that in mind. Just because we see the same strategy name, it's not the same strategy from the prior day. All right. So there is a lot of heavy lifting going on behind the scenes here that makes this truly an AI. You know, there's a method to the madness. There's a lot of analysis going on. And, you know, depending on what unfolds after all that's done, will dictate what strategies show up for tomorrow. But just think about this. Even if you had a team of 100 people crunching numbers all night, they'd never get it done. So just a little peek into the technology that's being implemented to bring you the only AI for the retail crowd.
So Jamie, that's a great segue to here. Let me show you guys kind of what I'm going to illustrate right here. And let's just start off with this very first one. This was this new high on 2 times relative volume, a strategy that's obviously going to produce way too many results. But at the end of the day, it's a coin flip. I won less than 50% of the time. My profit factor, which is the total winners over total losers, is just a little bit over 1. My average winner is just a little bit over my average loser. Essentially, this isn't something that I could trade. But if I could optimize it and make it something really good, then you have a fighting chance in the marketplace. And that's what we do every day on these strategies that Jamie was talking about. Sunrise Mover being the one that he had mentioned is one of our better performing strategies. It's one that this happens to be the back test on it right here, and you can see it's just dramatically different. And the AI goes through that strategy every single day. It looks at the new market data, looks at every single filter, and if it made a change to it, how would it affect the overall performance? I mean, you have the ability using this backtest tool to go in with this optimization tab, not on the Sunrise Movers because it's an AI strategy, but on strategies that you create, and go through and use the filters that Trade Ideas has in the software and see how manipulating those filters would have an outcome on the overall profitability of that strategy. So in this case here, I'm kind of looking at, I'm slicing and dicing 1 minute RSI, and I'm looking at all the trades that had occurred in the strategy. Where was the RSI for those particular trades, and how did I do? And it's giving me win percentages, profit factors, average winner. Remember, this has already been optimized, so you're not going to find a lot of faults with it. But as you go through the different filters, you know, you could see, like in this case right here on a stock that was triggered, if it had a 2-hour range greater than $1.40, well, maybe that's not such a great trade to have. Maybe I could put a filter here, a filter cap, and by doing so, I would exclude these 5 trades. And using a process like that and looking at all of our different filters, you know, some of these filters are normal market data, but a good vast majority of them are very specific and custom to Trade Ideas, because what we do is something very unique. When we ingest that market data, we create statistical baselines for every single stock on every time frame. So as the market's kicking on and we're getting market data and some stock starts to break out on big volume, well, we know that one, that stock has big volume, more so than normal. We know it has big volume on the 1 minute, the 5 minute, the 15, on every single time frame. We know that it's got a range today that's far greater than normal. So we're able to bring you all this information in real time, so that when that action occurs, you're sitting there, you can click on that symbol, look at that chart, make that decision instantaneously, and you're in the market participating. And that's really what this software was designed to be able to help you do. But it's not designed necessarily to do it all for you, unless you spend the time, of course, in creating these strategies that you're going to feel comfortable with automating in the market.
Good stuff. And, you know, Blair was commenting on, you know, well, what if I just take a look at Holly's patterns and then, you know, or the symbol, and then if I like the pattern, I take the trade. And I think that's just human nature, right? Especially when you're not used to dealing with a complex model like this. It happens all the time, actually. Depending on the pattern that you like to play, you pull up a Holly play. It's already got very good statistical probability behind it. So you got that. We know that we have that going for us on every Holly play. But then you notice and you're like, ah, it's also my favorite chart pattern. And I've got statistical probability, right? I got 2 stars on this trade. Then you might notice the volume is also raging. So I got my favorite pattern. Holly's saying it's got good statistics behind it, and it's got raging volume. Now you got 3 stars working for you. So yeah, I mean, and that is man interacting with the machine, which is the best possible combination according to the limits of technology for now, all right? The chimera approach, man working with machine, letting the machine do the things that the man can't, all this heavy lifting over the nighttime downtime, and then we use that machine generated data to help reinforce our decision-making process on the next session.
That's
all right,
great.
looks like we are caught up. Just doing a little. And hey, time flies when you're having fun, Brad. Look what time it is. I think we're done. I think we're done. I want to thank everyone for popping in today. We had a robust little crowd in here today. So hopefully everybody gleaned something valuable for tomorrow's session. And seeing as how today is Wednesday, we got one more day tomorrow. We're going to still do the same 2 o'clock 1-hour webinar. Now to finish things off with Friday, instead of a 1-hour help webinar, we're going to do a 3-hour one that will start at 11 a.m. Eastern and go until 2 p.m. So 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern, same format, except we're going to go for 3 hours. So if I were you guys, I would pop on in tomorrow and Friday, get the most out of these Q&A sessions as you can. And want to wish everybody good luck tomorrow in the market. Brad, anything to add before we shut her down today?
I am all talked out. Nothing more to add. Good session though, Jamie.
Right, and Lynn, just to let you know, there is a contest, as there is always in the test drive. People can participate by setting price alerts and sending them in. So if you want us to send you a copy of the rules, just pop an email over to info@trade-ideas.com and we'll get that over to you. But yes, there is a contest. All right, everybody, thanks for popping in. We'll see you tomorrow. Brad, thanks for popping in. Great content. And everybody have a great evening and a good tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye-bye.